China downgrades diplomatic relations with Lithuania after Lithuania upgrades ties with Taiwan. Will Vilnius bow to Beijing's pressure?
I'm Sandy T reporting for TaiwanPlus at the Stand of Freedom anti-vaccine protest. I'll be looking into why these people are here and what message they would like to deliver.
A call and sighting of China's missing tennis star, but the global community still isn't convinced of Peng Shuai's well-being. Stepping out with a message, we speak to the artist behind basketball star Enes Kanter's Free China shoes. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. It's yet another sign that European nations could face retaliation if they seek deeper ties with Taiwan. China has downgraded its diplomatic relations to protest the opening of a Taiwanese representative office in the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius. Our reporter James Chater has more.
Just days after Taiwan opened its new representative office in Lithuania, diplomatic retaliation from Beijing.
中方对此表示强烈不满和严正抗议，决定将中立两国外交关系降为代办级。
The downgrade in relations comes after Taiwan's office in the Lithuanian capital included the word Taiwanese in its name. From Lithuania's Prime Minister, disappointment with China's decision, but a reminder also that the new Taiwanese office does not contravene its One China policy.
Tai, kad Lietuva nori intensyvinti ekonominius, kultūrinius, mokslinius, taip pat ryšius su Taivanu, buvo paskelbta vyriausybės programoje ir tas žingsnis turbūt neturėjo kažko labai nustebinti. Tai buvo vyriausybės programos nuostatos įgyvendinimas, kad šitas žingsnis nereiškia jokio konflikto ar kažkokio nesutarimo dėl vienos Kinijos politikos.
Although the Vilnius Taiwan office is not an embassy, it has become the latest Lithuanian action to anger Beijing.
至于中方将采取何种必要措施，大家可以拭目以待。立方咎由自取，必将自食其果。
Lithuania is calling on the European Union for more support in its spat with China. And that makes for a subtle contrast with the United States. Lithuania's foreign minister is heading to Washington on Tuesday and is expected to sign an export credit agreement worth $600 million. Analysts say this could be a significant buffer against any economic retaliation from China, a sentiment echoed by some Lithuanian parliamentarians.
I feel that the world needs to lessen the codependence index with China. We need to diversify our markets and not to be dependent on an authoritarian regime, even if it's a very large, a very influential regime, but it's still authoritarian. That means unstable, unpredictable, and dangerous.
Eyes now turn to Washington to see how and to what extent the US is willing to support Lithuania's stance on China, and whether other democratic countries follow in its footsteps. Rick E. and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
This past weekend, China sent a total of 14 military aircraft into Taiwan's air defense zone, including 2 nuclear-capable H-16 bombers. China's planes were spotted flying over the southwestern part of Taiwan's air defense zone before making a slight dip further into the west and finally turning back. This comes at a time when relations between the two countries continue to sour and as both sides bolster their defense capabilities. China's President Xi Jinping has remotely chaired a summit meeting with leaders of Southeast Asian nations. The event marks 30 years of China's dialogue with the ASEAN trade bloc. Chinese state media say the meeting will upgrade ties between the bloc and Beijing. Xi told ASEAN leaders China is a good neighbour and will not bully its smaller neighbours, several of which have territorial and maritime conflicts with Beijing. This comes barely a week after Chinese Coast Guard fired water cannons at Philippines ships in disputed waters. The US and other non-ASEAN nations have backed the Philippines, but Beijing has accused the US of trying to split the bloc. as it vies with China in the region. A call and an appearance at a tennis event is failing to dampen international concern over the safety of Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai. The 35-year-old vanished 3 weeks ago after accusing a former senior Chinese vice premier of sexual assault. It is considered the most high-profile Me Too allegation in China. On Sunday, footage of the former doubles world champion at a Beijing youth tournament was released, and the International Olympic Committee confirmed they spoke to her. Louise Watt has more details.
Filmed signing oversized tennis balls and smiling. Chinese athlete Peng Shuai attended a tennis event on Sunday, according to this footage shared by a Chinese state media reporter on social media. The footage hasn't been independently verified, but it would mark Peng's first public appearance since she posted an allegation of sexual assault on November the 2nd. The alleged abuser? Former Vice Premier Zhang Gaoli. Neither Zhang nor the Chinese government have commented on her allegation, which was quickly deleted and blocked from discussion within China. But internationally, there have been growing calls for proof of her whereabouts and an investigation from her fellow tennis stars, the United Nations, and the US, British and French governments.
Très préoccupante. Je n'attends qu'une chose, c'est que Madame Peng Shuai parle. Et si les autorités chinoises veulent faire la clarté, eh bien, il faut qu'ils permettent à Madame Peng Shuai de parler, de dire où elle est, comment elle vit, qu'est-ce qu'elle fait et comment elle prépare les Jeux Olympiques futurs.
Most vocal has been the Women's Tennis Association, which has threatened to stop playing tournaments in China unless there is verifiable proof that Peng is safe. It's unusual for a sporting organisation or players to attack China, due to fears of damaging their earning potential in the large market. The International Olympic Committee has come under pressure to speak up for Peng, a 3-time Olympian. It said on Friday it was working on quiet diplomacy. The result of that? An apparent 30-minute call between Peng and the IOC on Sunday. The IOC said in a statement that Peng explained that she is safe and well, living at her home in Beijing, but would like to have her privacy respected. Human rights activists say a statement on the IOC's website is not enough to allay concerns.
It's not Peng directly speaking to an audience that is not controlled by the Chinese government. If the Chinese government really wants to show that Peng is free, why not just let Peng to do a live streaming with her fans, or let Peng hold a press conference where international media can attend.
Before her apparent attendance at the sporting event, Chinese state media workers claimed Peng had posted photos on WeChat and attended a meal in Beijing on Saturday.
There's a way for the Chinese government to show that if they really didn't exert any pressure on her, they didn't constrain her movements, which is to let her speak freely, directly with her fans or with the international media, or let her leave the country to speak to whoever she wants to speak. But so far, whatever we see and hear from Peng is through another medium. We never actually directly hear from her.
For now, Peng's appearance on Sunday at a youth tournament inside Beijing's National Tennis Center raises more questions than answers over her almost 3-week disappearance. Bill Kong and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
NBA star Enes Kanter is in the headlines again after joining the chorus of international athletes voicing concern over Peng Shuai. On Sunday evening in the United States, the NBA star appeared on air for an interview with CNN wearing a T-shirt that read, "Taiwan is not China." He dismissed videos of Peng posted by Chinese state media as staged. The Boston Celtics basketball player also called on the Winter Olympics to be moved from Beijing in protest. A Wall Street Journal article this weekend, Kanter wrote that all the gold medals in the world aren't worth selling your values and your principles to the Chinese Communist Party. Well, Enes Kanter has garnered attention with posts of his custom-made sneakers, highlighting the plight of people oppressed by the Chinese Communist Party. Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick spoke with the designer of 3 of the sneakers, a Chinese-Australian dissident artist known as Ba Diu Cao. Ryan began by asking why it matters for sports stars like Kanter to speak out.
I think it's really great that we have athletes like Enes Kanter to bravely, stood out and saying that enough is enough. And human rights is something that concerns every one of us, even though he is coming from a very different culture and political background and religious background. But still, he can see the very important meaning to advocating for those minorities in China, including the Tibetans and Uyghurs, and standing with the ordinary Chinese people who want to see change inside of China. China has turned into this gigantic monster, not just slaughtering people inside, but also become this aggression projecting all around the world, including, the very democracy and freedom in Taiwan is under the shadow of China's threat.
Although these people are being oppressed, they're not just victims, they're also resisting and fighting back. Was that something that was important to you?
It's very important that I actually do something directly about China and on China and Xi Jinping himself, but also highlighting the possibility, the potential for the ordinary Chinese people to remind them that once upon a time we have brave figure like Tank Man stood out, and today we need more of them. What we need is to reminding the people this has happened and this can happen again. Not because we're heroes, we do not have fear. We do have all the fear because this monster, this enemy is so strong. However, even though with all the dangers, we can still work out a plan. We can still pick up the courage step by step because that has been done and will be done again.
A striking phenomenon has been causing quite a stir in northeastern Taiwan's Yilan County. White smoke was seen billowing into the air on Sunday from beneath the sea around Turtle Island. A video shot by a local tour guide shows smoke plumes as high as 239 meters above sea level. The officials say the sulfurous smoke is due to normal volcanic activity around the island. Coming up after the break, invasion of the toads, how this foreign species is threatening farms in Taiwan. Details in a moment.
台湾最有人情味的地方。
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. A reminder of our top story. China has downgraded its diplomatic ties with Lithuania after a Taiwanese representative office opened in the Baltic state at the end of last week. A Kenyan runner tested positive for COVID-19 one day before the new Taipei City Wanjinshi Marathon, which took place in northern Taiwan on Sunday. The female runner, who was fully vaccinated, is thought to have caught COVID in her home country. She is currently receiving treatment at a local hospital. This year's marathon was postponed from March due to the pandemic. About 7,000 local and international runners took part. It's nearly 2 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, and a global effort to vaccinate against it is facing increasing resistance. The so-called anti-vax movement is calling into question what they see as rushed science. Sandy Chi has the story.
– 26-year-old soldier Chen Shixing took to the streets in anger over the loss of his friend. Dead, he said, because of the COVID-19 vaccine.
我的朋友打了 A 粒，可是他原本是健康的，他才30岁，但是他打这因为工作需求打疫苗，所以他死于这个疫苗。
While other countries fear death from COVID-19, Taiwan faces something different. To date, COVID-19 has killed 850 people, while around 1,000 have died from vaccine-related causes. But lethal side effects to the vaccine aren't all people here worry about.
Anti-vaxxers are few in number in Taiwan, but are determined to be heard. They question the reliability of the vaccine and also the intentions of the Taiwan government.
These people fear that a vaccine mandate is simply a way for the government to control the public, curtailing liberties and freedoms.
People's ability to move around is being controlled. People's ability to have authority over their own body is being diminished. And the will of the people on the top, the globalists, the technocrats, Bill Gates, etc., they're imposing a poisonous, untested shot to be injected into people. And so when you look at something like that, I could say, what could that be besides a takeover? It's a total destruction of people's rights, people's freedoms, and I'm totally against it.
Over the weekend, tens of thousands also demonstrated across Europe, protesting government plans for stricter social measures and a new lockdown as they battle a new COVID surge. Tensions are increasing in populations across the globe between those who are vaccinated and those who aren't, with each side accusing the other of protecting self-interests. To keep the peace, virologist Dr. Shixing Ru has a few suggestions for anti-vaxxers to show that they're serious about combating COVID-19 by lowering the risk of infection.
You don't want to take the pills, do not want to get a shot, then the best way for you to prevent infection is wearing mask, washing your hands. And so even though you meet the virus, you won't get very high titer of virus, then you got less chance to be very severe or die.
They're angry at the government over its vaccination plans. These protesters demand more transparency. They don't feel they've been given enough data to make informed choices. Ultimately, they say, they too want to go back to normal and return to a life without masks. Damon Lin and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
To the United States now. Los Angeles County planted thousands of small white flags over the weekend to remember the nearly 27,000 people who have lost their lives due to COVID-19. LA County has recorded one of the highest rates of COVID in the United States, more than 1.5 million cases since the start of the pandemic. The planting of white flags is part of a 3-day memorial being held across multiple cities. Officials have encouraged residents to visit and pay homage to the victims. However, those looking to buy a Christmas tree in the US to celebrate the holidays this year may be in for a disappointment. Due to shortages, buyers should expect to pay higher prices. That's if they're lucky enough to find any to buy. Supply chain issues are ramping up the costs, along with unusually huge demand from last year and record heat waves. There are 40% fewer pine and fir trees across the whole industry for sale. Highly adaptable and highly poisonous, cane toads have invaded central Taiwan's Nantou County. Farmers have been finding them on their land in larger numbers this year. Researchers and conservationists are concerned the toads are a threat to Taiwan's native species and are looking at ways to tackle their population. TaiwanPlus reporter Pichi Zhuang has this story.
Local farmer Miss Zheng first found a cane toad in her fields last year.
因为去年才看一只两只嘛，啊，过来就是今年热天了后就看就真济啊。
Earlier this month, a group of local farmers and volunteers searched the area for the invasive species in Nantou's Chaotun Township and caught 27 of them. Cane toads are double or even triple the size of Taiwan's native toads. Their poison is so lethal it could kill cats and dogs.
那它的毒性比台湾原生种的蟾蜍都还要大1-2倍，所以它毒性比较强。当地居民说常常看到，而且已经看了2-3年了，所以我们觉得事态严重，必须要强力的采取一些移除控制的措施。
It is believed the toads were first brought to Taiwan as pets, and their population grew after a few were abandoned in the wild. There is concern that the toads are a threat to Taiwan's native species.
我咧专家来咧讲的时讲，伊会食青蛙，我才向遐想，晓啊，哪会咁啊青蛙哪咁啊咸足济去？
Researchers from National Donghua University are working with conservationists and local governments to set up a national reporting system in the hope of stopping the toads spreading to other areas. Rick Yi and Pichi Zhuang for TaiwanPlus.
British singer Adele has scored a hit with her comeback album 30. She has also won a victory for artists who want fans to listen to their songs in the order they intended. Has removed the shuffle option from its album play button. This makes the user listen to the album tracks in order. The move comes in response to a request by Adele, who has released her first album in 6 years. The singer thanked Spotify, saying, "Our art tells a story, and our stories should be listened to as we intended." 30, released at the weekend, focuses on Adele's healing process following her divorce. And now we meet an Indigenous artist in Taiwan who has created a name for herself with her environmentally friendly fashion, which integrates her Army's roots.
我是阿美族的莎莎，来自都兰部落，我叫孙毅。我的创作主要是来自于阿美族传统元素作为我的灵感来源。这一片是我们部落的 老人种的一个菜园，在我们部落都兰部落会种槟榔树当做界限，可能是家的界限，有的时候是菜园的界限。其实，在原住民的社会里面啊，不管是婚丧喜庆，或者是祭祀的时候，都会用到槟榔树跟槟榔果。 其实呢，我们做槟榔鞘叶创作呢，这个叶子的部分，这个就是槟榔叶，但是我们会舍弃不用，因为它干掉之后，它很容易就断裂了。我们是取鞘叶的部分，鞘叶就是这个部分比较硬的地方，它包住树干。如果要长的话，应该是这样长，槟榔就从这边长出来。 所以槟榔长出来之后呢，就把鞘叶推下来，我们只需要剪就好了。那我们在做创作的时候呢，是使用这个部分，其他部分都是剪裁掉的。因为其实我本来就很喜欢做一些小东西，或者是手工艺，甚至是艺术创作的东西。那会加进来阿美族传统文化的元素。一方面是觉得说，台湾这么小的地方，其实有很多元的文化。 原住民也是其中一个文化，但是我们从小到大教科书里面对于原住民的阐述非常的少， 所以造成了很多刻板印象啊，或隔阂。其实原住民有更多美丽漂亮的展现，所以在做这些艺术创作的时候，我非常喜欢把我们自己部落的文化加进来，让大家看到这些漂亮的事情。我觉得我们部落的文化是很生活化，然后希望可以让世界跟生活更美好。它其实就是希望跟世界啊、跟土地啊是友善的相处在一起的一个文化。现在正在做的是我们的槟榔鞘片耳环，十字绣在槟榔鞘片上面，然后在使用这个耳环的时候，也可以同时看到十字绣的工艺。因为其实我一直在想要怎么样可以把那个槟榔叶鞘，跟部落的传统工艺做结合，在教部落小朋友十字绣的过程当中，槟榔叶鞘呢，它在干燥的过程当中是比较硬，所以小朋友在学习十字绣的时候呢，他的手比较不会滑。所以我是在教学的过程当中，发想出来。那我们在饰品的转换上面呢，我们是想要用比较多颜色的绣线跟槟榔叶做结合，也可以吸引年轻人的目光。其实对我来讲，时尚是生活的展现。你今天喜欢什么样穿衣的风格，喜欢什么颜色，穿搭在你身上只要是适合的，我都觉得很时尚。
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. We leave you with images of a special fashion show in Tel Aviv with models wearing clothes made of cardboard and plastic garbage to raise awareness of environmental damage. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.